January 5th. Okay.
Hi, good morning, Happy New Year, welcome to, 2019. If we could start today's, January 2nd work session by standing for the pledge.
Catherine Williams, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
All right, we will start today's work session with, Middle Road proposed development, so if you would like to come up and join us. Jeff Murphy, I believe you're gonna come up and join us with this also.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
Hi,
morning,
good
how are
morning.
you? Steve LaSquadra.
Hi, Steve, how are you?
How are
Morning,
you?
Counselor, how are you?
How are you?
Why don't you sit down too, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself just for the
Steve.
camera, so you can do it facing this way.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, sir.
Happy New Year, Murphy.
Hey, that was too rough.
Got it, guy. Good morning.
woke me up.
How are you?
I'm having a hard time hearing today,
Okay,
right? So, I don't mean to be rude, but
How are you, sir?
Joe.
Jimmy.
Joe Mans.
How are you, Joe?
all right, I'm just gonna have you guys introduce yourself again, because we are on, camera, and you can face this way, cause it's going from this direction
Okay.
also. The only thing is, we do have, for the plans here, we do have two microphones.
Watch your little button, Mike.
So, yeah, no, we need to get little cones or something,
So,
Okay.
my name is Stephen LaSquadra, Happy New Year
Happy New
again. I'm here on behalf of my client Joseph Manzi. Mr. Manzi is to my right, so he is to your left. To your right and to my left is Jeff Butler, and Jeff is a well-known engineer here right in Riverhead who works with us on this matter and many others. He'll provide some technical assistance and some weigh-in on that with respect to the plan and the layout of the property that's on Middle Road. The essence of why we're here is that Mr. Manzi is the contract vendee on this property that is before you. It's on Middle Road. The property already has a preliminary layout on it, and that is for an as-of-right 22-home subdivision.
Where on Middle, I don't know anything about this, where on Middle Road is this project?
Aerial, close from Harrison.
Okay,
Right. So as I said, it's 22 homes, as we believe it would lay out as of right, and, when we came in even preliminarily, even before coming here at a work session, so that we could run this by planning staff, and Mr. Hubbard happened to just be here at that time, which was very helpful, because he was then able to digest some of it and weigh in. What we were able to explain is as follows, that, it does appear, you know, by all accounts, that 22 homes would be, you know, the appropriate and, actual layout and what the yield would be. Mr. Manzi had a thought that, the property could be used maybe more appropriately and be better developed for housing that would be more geared, let's say condominiums, that would, be geared towards younger people, younger professionals entering the workforce. It's a thought that didn't come to him just by himself, but he was approached by representatives of the hospital, because they know him over many years as someone who has built in the town over the course of about 40 years. And they explained to him that they have their plans for expansion of the hospital, that they're going to be actively recruiting and bringing in younger professionals and younger workers who are going to be part of their expanding workforce, and that they recognize, they told him that there's not a need, that there is a need, and that there's not a supply for the type of housing that such individuals, such younger people, younger workers would need, and require, especially at a price point that they could afford. And so Mr. Manzi's thought is, well, if I could satisfy that need and do it in a way that wouldn't dramatically expand the density, and he thought that he could limit it to 34 units, which would be smaller, which would be much more affordable, for the type of people who would need such housing, that might actually be then sort of a win-win situation, that, he's providing housing for people who need it, It would be at a price point that they could afford. Maybe you're talking about condominiums that might come in, we're all talking approximate numbers at this point, but let's say about $350,000 as opposed to $500,000 homes, which are the type of homes that they very successfully build, that they are building right now, at their current Old Orchard subdivision here in the town, and Mr. Hammond and Mr. Murphy are aware of that subdivision. It's been very successful, there's a very good collaborative relationship with the town, particularly with the building department. So they know that their product is very sound, that it sells, and it sells very well, but to provide something at a much lower price point that could satisfy the needs of the hospital and all the workers that might be younger, that could come in and potentially afford this now, and to do it in a way where the density is not being drastically increased, might work for everyone. Of course, something like that would require a change of zone, that's why we're here, because we wanted to gauge what your thoughts might be, if there's an interest in that, and if there is, what might be the best manner of moving forward.
So what is it zoned currently?
Probably 40.
And you're proposing what? How many acres is it?
26.
And how many homes are you proposing?
We would propose going from the 22 layout here to 34.
So what's the density then?
It would be slightly over 1
So-
unit per acre.
So you're RB 40, so you're 1 per acre, and
Right.
so you could get 26 homes and you're looking 34.
Correct.
It'd be a little bit less than that, because you have to allow for roads and things like that.
Right.
Brett and I estimated that'd be approximately 20, what was on the subdivision, 22?
So 22 is what our yield map came up
Right.
with when we programmed in the roads and the drainage.
Right, allowing for infrastructure, the yield, utilities, roadways.
A good rule of thumb is about 80% of,
So you're asking for, almost,
Going from 22 to 34 units.
so 12 more, 12 more,
Mm-hmm.
about 50% more gain on your yield.
And these are each separate condo units?
This is the subdivision map for single-family residence that we did
Oh, I
14
see.
years ago for a previous client that never got preliminary approval, but we got the preliminary map done. And that map demonstrated the 22 lots with drainage and some open space.
So basically, you're looking for a subdivision there, a high-density subdivision. Because 350,000 is, you know, how does that compare to our market here that you're saying it's more affordable?
Well, Joe, what are the houses over in Old Orchard?
Cause on Middle Road,
We
that's
have
about the
we have
average price, about
we have
350,000 for homes, right, on Middle Road over there?
No,
All those
not,
senior communities, about 350,000 for each one of those?
well, no, well, I think the difference is this, is that if this were built out as of right, as it's shown here,
Mm-hmm.
and if you were building single-family homes, the single-family homes just,
Probably gonna
just,
start around 4. Right now, we have one, Old Orchard, Baden Hollow.
Right.
I think we sold, well, hopefully we sold 20. We definitely have 18 mortgage commitments and all that, and there's a contract out now, and another one should be going out hopefully by the end of this week. I think they're meeting the second time. So, basically, they're starting around 440, I think, and they're going up to about high 5s.
And how big are those homes?
I think, from 1,800 square feet up to, about 3.
And how big are these homes proposed?
These will be about 1,200.
About 1,200?
Well, these were the
Oh,
same.
oh,
I'm talking about what you're requesting.
what would be proposed, yes.
So so the houses are much
Yeah, because-
smaller, okay.
right,
This is about, I won't say much because I not have, we're only about a mile, maybe 2 miles from the hospital. And, you know, you got, 58 miles. So I think the type person would be 1, maybe 2 people, maybe a little baby, 2, something.
For the proposals that
For
you're,
the proposed.
What was changing, yeah, we
Starter
would
homes.
like to see, yeah,
Right.
like 1,200 square feet, open design, 2 bedrooms, 2 beds, central air.
I think
And I think we could come in, depending on the cost factor of between, $330 to $350, which would be,
guaranteed,
huh?
you're guaranteeing them
Well,
affordable?
yeah, guaranteed, no, in the sense that, no, things how quick you approve something and
Yeah.
how much things change, you know.
I'm just kinda trying to get the language
Yeah,
here,
I'm
because
not
you're
a-
saying workforce housing, but there's nothing to, if the market,
it's
if the
more
market
work-
came in at 450 here, then they'd be 450.
You-
No,
you
no, no,
should-
actually,
no, I'm not
let me,
gonna come
Joe,
in
let me
at
just,
450.
That's what I'm
let
trying
me
to.
just say this, no, I think the disconnect is as
Yeah.
follows. That when we're talking about the 450, 500, 550, that's what the homes, the single-family homes, such as what's shown here, if you had the 22 homes, and we built this as of right, just as comparing it to the old Orchard subdivision, which I
That would be your price
referenced,
point.
that would be the price point. So in other words, Manzi consistently builds homes, as Joe said, starting at 450, that will go up to $600,000.
Well, high five, and
Yeah. High fives. And so those are sold very successfully. There's the Old Orchard subdivision that I referenced that, every day, Manzi is working with the building department on as one home moves to another and it goes through the entire inspection process. That's not what Joe proposes as part of this request, if in fact you deem that this would be something good to move forward. It would be smaller homes, slightly more density, you know, it wouldn't be double density, it would be 1.5 essentially, and it would be at a much lesser price point, which we believe, looking at what is available, understanding what people are going to be making that are projected to come in, working in particular at the hospital, taking into account what the hospital has related to us about their expansion, the type of younger people that they anticipate bringing in, people working as physician's assistants or young doctors or nurses.
So you'd have a market to purchase your house.
Correct, and people who could purchase at that price point, because that would work for them, whereas even if you're a younger professional, 450, 500, 550, that's really not a starter home for such a person, so it would put
It's
them
not
out
even a
of.
retirement home for some people.
So,
Well,
my other.
I agree, Councilman.
My other question is, as meeting the 10% requirement for a subdivision for affordable homes, is it every 5 homes, it's 10% of the whole project, so out of 22 homes, how many of those would have to be affordable?
So that's when you take the maximum yield, and typically you're not gonna trigger that, like in this case, the maximum yield, they're not gonna propose the 26 or 25, whatever it comes to, it's gonna be, quite typically, it's going to be lower. To achieve anything over the 26 in the best case scenario, there would have to be some sort of zone change.
But I'm just saying, the yield of 22, right, if they came in just straight out, what they could do as of right, the 22 homes is what they could do, how many of those would have to be
I
affordable?
haven't seen the yield map, cause this is a preliminary map, but let's say the yield map said 22 maximum, then yeah, per that Long Island Workforce Housing
3 of them
Act,
would have to be affordable?
10, I think it's 10%.
10%.
And the town is still at 10% or we're at 20?
I believe we're still at 10%.
I know.
So a couple of them would, no matter what,
Yeah,
the subdivision would have to.
Because, when we did the subdivision, just got approved about a year and a half ago, we had nothing in Old Orchard, Peyton Hollow.
But that is
Didn't
not,
change in the last couple, yeah, I don't
no,
care,
that,
I'm for
it wasn't, I'm assuming that it was just not enforced, it should
Really
have been?
approved more like 4 years ago.
Yeah,
but,
it should have been done,
Huh?
it should have been done. Why it was not, I
I don't
can't
know.
answer for that, but
Even
it,
Charles
but-
Cuddy represented us on it.
but it was, you know, it should have, any subdivision that comes in, it's over 5, over 4?
Yeah,
5 or
over
more.
5.
Over 5, 5 homes, over 5 homes needs to provide affordable homes also.
I can appreciate you wanting to change to accommodate the changing of our town, I get it, 'cause
Yeah.
everyone knows the medical field is what's blowing everything up
Yeah.
as far as that goes. What, now with a map this size, you don't have to worry about clustering and all that stuff.
So our A40, our B40, there really isn't a clustering provision in the
Okay,
code,
that's good,
that's the 80s and the APC, so the 2-acre zoning
Right,
where
so that's good.
you would anticipate farmland that you wanna preserve.
How in the world would we take that RB40 with its code and all of a sudden increase the density
So-
by making smaller houses? Does that
So if you look at our
something we
zoning,
could do legally?
the zoning map.
You're
for
asking for
zoning,
like a
but you
floater,
can't
like
manage
middle,
it.
like the over 55 communities.
Well, no, the idea was there's RA40 all close to this, not directly touching this lot, there's actually 5 or 6 lots that are RB 40 right here in the middle, and RB 40 is something you see in Aquabog and Jamesport.
Right.
This little patch of RB 40, one thought was if this were to change to RA 40, there is that workforce housing option where you could do one dwelling per 20,000 square feet.
Versus 1 per 40.
And what's the
You said
difference,
one dwelling per what?
20,000 square feet.
what's the difference between A and B? Just that
Well,
provision?
the workforce housing means that, so now you're gonna have to do some bookkeeping and keep the price at a level that's representative of what we deem workforce housing to be. But 1 per 20,000 is on a 26 acre lot, you probably end up more like 40 dwellings, 45 dwellings by our rough math.
But then you can cluster,
There's still no clustering provision, that's kind of up to the board.
the board's
You
discretion.
know, how you want to, you come up with a yield map, and that's how many houses, and then you can play with the designs, there's supposed to be at least 3 designs when you do a major, subdivision, so you can always,
Is that a heavy lift going from RB to RA? It'd have to be justified, I guess, through,
Well, what else would it
I don't
affect?
think it's
That's the
heavy,
plan.
just because there's RA 40 all there, and I'm not quite without, I have to look at the old zoning, why this little grouping got stayed out. I mean, you're talking about the Roanoke's End and Gravel Pit, and then 2 pieces of farmland in this Benny Hur, lot. Anderson's farm behind,
yeah, you got,
But what other
Target.
what other RB 40 is there in the,
RB
within a
40
half
is
mile?
Warren McKnight lives right there.
RB 40 is, again, more like Aquabog, Jamesport.
But I mean, in a half mile of this, how much RB 40 is there?
RA 40 is
R-
right there,
Yeah,
RB
because it
40,
would go to
nothing.
RA.
Right, I understand
Yes.
that, but I'm wondering if you're changing this to RA 40, you know,
There's-
what other properties around there will
There's
want
a few
RA
other lots.
40?
I know the yellow is kinda tough to
I
see,
mean, it's the-
these,
Looks like it's all surrounded by RA 40.
So it wouldn't affect what's happening in Jamesport because we'd only be, focusing on that little area.
I'm asking to just, what other is RB 40 around here? These, those are the.
right?
So all of
Just
these,
just
all
in
of
the
this,
immediate,
all of
vicinity,
this,
yes.
all of this, so how many acres is that total?
I'm sure it's over 50 acres.
It's over 50 acres.
Yeah, so it's.
So you're increasing the yield on 50 acres, you'd be increasing the yield on 50 acres
For
in that
workforce-
area there.
For workforce housing
For
option,
workforce
yes.
housing right off of Roanoke Avenue. And Middle Road, which is a heavily traveled road already from the other complexes that are there.
I think one of the other attractive options too is that even though there was just a discussion here that if you went into the RA 40, and you're talking about the potential increase to 40 or the 45, but remember Mr. Manzi has said, well, you know, I'm willing, my projection is I would put my own limit on it of 34.
Right, but that doesn't affect all of the other properties around it.
That you're thinking could ask for the same and.
Oh, absolutely they can,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they potentially could, and if they did, you know, again, just thinking from a greater global planning perspective, that might not necessarily be a bad thing, knowing that there's a need for younger people to come in at homes that represent a price point that they actually can afford. But remember too, there's an element of speculation as to whether people would even do that, because remember, if you're going in and following the workforce housing route, you have to commit yourself to present homes at prices that are actually affordable, which Mr. Manzi is. Other people may not be willing to do that, because in essence, you're talking about limiting your profit
What I like
for a
to-
greater good.
What I like about this project is that in terms of the workforce housing and the young professionals that you're talking about, we all know we have a bunch of apartments coming downtown, but apartments are rentals. This is a purchase that young people can invest in, and when they invest in something that they're purchasing, they're gonna take better care of it, and it's an investment for them to sell down the road and eventually maybe move up someday. So, I kinda like this plan, I like the idea of doing that, and I agree with you with the need of the young professionals coming in with the expansion of the hospital and the proximity of this to both the hospital and to shopping. I really kinda think it's an ideal situation, and it is set back off the road.
That is true, yes.
But you could potentially have kids there
Hopefully.
and
I think
some impact on the
We
schools.
may have,
Yeah.
I don't think so, I think once the children get to, like, most of them probably be single or couples, or maybe little babies, like just got married, but by the time they're ready to go to school, if they have a second, they're gonna be moving out of that, and hopefully
I don't know that that's the wave of what people do now, you know, might have been years ago, people go from first home to
Well, I
second home.
look at this
A lot
house
of people are
hunt,
staying in their first home purchase, going rental to first home purchase, and then staying there for quite a few years, I mean.
I would say this
I
though,
wouldn't-
If they could, but
With the two bedrooms,
Maybe.
families are downsizing, a lot of
Yeah,
people are having just one or two
whatever.
kids in a two-bedroom.
I don't see you getting
Americans,
that
anyway.
many children out of that, you know, you may.
Right, it's, yeah,
I-
there's
who knows?
potential.
I mean, you can't go and
There's
tell people you can't
there's
have kids.
potential. I mean, I'm not
Well, I don't think
disputing
you're
the
gonna
fact that you need affordable first-time homes for people in the community. I'm just not seeing how you get from RB 40 to other things in this area. I would really like to see what else it affects, because when you change zoning here, you're changing it for the whole town. This isn't a separate hamlet or anything else, so that would be my one concern. And this is, as I said, a 50-acre yield here an RA 40 is how many homes?
Yeah, I mean, if everyone were to do the workforce housing option, then sure,
You could end up with probably 100.
80 to 100 homes.
Right, you could end up with 100 homes in this area, which would be very congested for this particular area, which gives me some concern.
That's up to you, you know. We will feel this is a good thing for the community, you don't feel it, then, you know, you can't do it.
Well, I mean,
You know, exactly.
Gonna go homes
isolated, I
irregardless
totally
of what
agree
we
with
say.
you, but we can't, we don't have the privilege of looking at things in
I mean,
isolation.
this is not where all the other condos are, you know, the, 55,
And this is on the this would be on
this is
sewer?
west of that.
It's not on sewer.
No, there's no sewer.
This is about 2 miles from the hospital at the outside.
I
and
thought-
it's on
I
the
thought these-
west side of, the traffic circle, not the east side.
Yeah.
The east side, you have a lot, so they really wouldn't be going down that way, they would be going probably, whatever.
Harrison, right to 58
Right,
Road.
yeah.
North of Harrison.
On Middle Road, was some of the zoning change that things being developed over there need to be sewered?
The retirement community is all gone, it's all
I know
built
that
out,
wasn't,
right?
but I think after that, there was some changes that required other things to be built over there, if they would've developed that it needed to be sewered?
I don't know, I might be referring to something like the Aldersgate, like the John Wesley Village, that,
But also, there was another parcel over here down Middle Road, I think that that was supposed to be sewered for it to be developed.
Well, yeah, but either that assisted living thing
First
they were gonna
Baptist
do?
Church.
Not First Baptist Church, it was the
Oh,
GenDOT.
Yeah. It
GenDOT was supposed to be
right.
sewered, and
Assisted
there was,
living over on,
No, it wasn't assisted, it was
It
more
was this
condos,
same exact thing.
cluster of condos with a cul-de-sac
and,
that
an
backed right up
existing
to.
And one
Satellite
existing
Stone-
house.
Yeah,
yeah, and there was I think there was, that it was, that as per, I thought there was something there about whether it had to be sewered, and some of the zoning was changed and things being developed over there needed to be sewered. I don't this was before I came in, but I vaguely remember something along those lines.
This project was one of these projects that was approved and installed, and then it came back and was re-upped, so Jeff and I didn't really work on the,
Okay,
that initial.
because that would also be a concern. Especially if, you could end up with 100 homes over here without any,
Yeah,
Source of
since this RA 40 workforce option has been in since the master plan, I don't think we've had any developments, and there's a lot of RA 40 land. We
So
haven't had anyone to do it yet.
so where else is RA 40 land that this could sit? There is plenty of options to
RA 40 is Reeves Park, but all those lots are very small, and Riverhead, south of 58, north of,
So how many plots do we have that are available for RA 40 development?
I don't know.
But quite a few, right?
Oh, yeah.
So in the comprehensive plan, there was a place to put this,
Yeah, I should've,
the zone.
I didn't know this was gonna be on this morning, I
Yeah,
should've
no,
looked at
that's
what the
fine.
prior zoning was when we did the master plan and find out why this was RB 40, when there's no other RB 40 around.
The rest of it around there is RA or RB? For 80?
Well,
He's saying there's a lot of RA 40 around it.
this
what he
lighter
says,
yellow
right?
here is all RA 40s, it's
Yeah.
all RA 40, the professional business that runs up Roanoke, and then 58.
So all of this here on this side of Middle Road is RA 40?
This is all RA
Yeah, it's
40,
already
this
there.
lighter
This is
yellow.
Okay.
RA 40, this is RA 40.
That's a Hamlet Residential Center, and then
So
this is
basic-
APZ.
So actually, on north of Middle Road, they chose not to put RA 40?
North of Middle Road is mostly APZ with the exception of that little center there where Roanoke is, the retirement community, but yeah, beyond that, it's APZ.
APZ.
So I think there's 2 points that just come from that exchange. One is that there is a lot of RA 40 in the immediate
Available.
vicinity.
Available.
And so, changing this, it wouldn't drastically change the scope of what's there, it's not a sea change, so to speak. Second thing is, and I think going back to a fundamental point we were saying earlier, and that is that you're not seeing a lot of folks, you know, at least to date, who are pursuing the RA 40 for workforce housing, and I think there's a reason for that, and that is that, you know, developers who do that, aren't making the same profits. You know, Mr. Manzi's more at a unique situation, you know, he's someone who's been doing this over 40 years. He feels that this is a need that's demonstrated, and he was taken by what the hospital told him is about, you know, their future concerns and what they want to accommodate. But I don't think you see a lot of people rushing out to do this because it's not the same profit margins.
But I think also to that point, you know, comes the point that at developing those style homes in our current zoning, you're asking for an exception to the current zoning by almost a 50% greater yield. So, you know, I mean, that's also, you know, part of it.
Right.
So,
It's a give and take.
yeah.
It's a give
When
and take.
you build
But you
22
gotta
homes that are
recognize-
2,500 square feet with 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and 5 kids.
Right.
Or you build 34 homes or whatever with 2 bedrooms, I mean, it's
Yeah.
a give and take.
Yeah, and you know, and there's the cost benefit
and the same
analysis, even, you know,
sanitary yield.
for services, for the school
Sanitary
district, all of
yield.
that gets
It's
factored in. Of course.
It's identical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at over 100-something thousand difference in price, which may not be important to certain people, and certain people it's substantial. We did loads, and you could check with East Hampton, Southampton, we did a load of, I wouldn't call this affordable home, but affordable housing for East Hampton. We did a big rental complex for them, for the town of East Hampton. 29 units out there, about 10 years ago, maybe more. In Southampton, we're still doing homes there.
But there's no guarantee on the price of these homes, that's what I'm understanding, so if you so,
I'll
if you.
guarantee you under 350, okay? You're asking for something that really, you know, you put a basement in, we wanna put a basement, we like that. We wanna put a garage in, I mean, there's all things that, you know, we're not trying to cut it down to 0. Could we come even lower? Yeah. Should I do it? I don't think so. I don't think we should put the house on a slab. I think they should have a garage, right now.
And resale would be whatever the market bears.
It's not with the market,
Well, you're talking about resale.
Resale would be whatever the market bears.
Right,
Oh,
yeah, I don't, cause
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think,
yeah.
I don't think constitutionally you can impose that on a homeowner
Well,
as to
if you're selling it as wanting to do this as affordable workforce housing, and it will remain affordable workforce
Right.
housing, then it should remain affordable workforce housing, so if you don't do that with resale, and you can do that.
Well, I think you can, but we
I'm just semantics here, that's
Yeah, I mean,
my,
you can do things like that, but of course, you know, we'd have to speak to, Mr. Kozakevich in the town attorney's office, but I think essentially you'd have to talk about, well, and I think these type of factors always come into play. What time period do they have to stay in the house? What are the circumstances under which financially they came into the house? That's why Mr. Hammond was saying, you know, you have to do some bookkeeping on this.
Well,
Our workforce housing is not, if you look through the code and explain that, go through that, and we've had conversations with the CDA over the years, because we haven't had a major subdivision take advantage of this section, it really hasn't been done, but you could put, town board says, yeah, we'll switch it over for workforce housing, but we wanna see
Could
it
you
stay
talk a
as
little bit
workforce.
louder, please?
We wanna see it stay as workforce housing, you could do that through the approval process.
right, and that's kind of my point, if you, that would have to be something that would be considered if you were going to, if this is even, you know, we would have to do some research on this to see if this is even doable. But certainly, that would be, you know, because if you're calling it workforce housing, it should stay workforce housing.
To me, I don't care. What I'm saying to you, I don't even know what you call it workforce. I was trying to fulfill a need at to me, a substantial.
No, I understand that, I understand that, yeah.
It's up to the town to say, yeah, we don't need that need, or whatever, we want it to stay. It's up to you guys.
Okay.
That's why we're here to make a presentation, and then it's up to you to feel if it's a good thing or not. am I gonna make more money or less money? I'm retired for 7 years, I don't need any money, my daughter's gonna be doing a project, and her husband, you know.
I would say this too, since this is something essentially that you'd be embarking on, because, you know, we're here and at least there was an initial interest, because, you know, it's recognized that this need is coming, and the expansion is coming, and this type of workforce and young professionals are going to be hopefully placing their roots here, and you want to keep them as opposed to have them more transient, right, or living in other towns and commuting in. Well, I think one of the advantages is that you could sort of craft this the way you want, because, you know, we're sort of embarking on all of this together. So one of the nice things that comes from a change of zone, that with a change of zone, there are covenants and restrictions that are going to accompany the property. So in essence, the limitations and the guarantees that you want, you can place in those CNRs, and that can give you the proper roadmap going forward.
You know, I appreciate your coming to do the presentation. Certainly, I understand that our workforce at Peconic Bay is growing, and I think, you know, we are going to be needing workforce. I just have to think about it, because I'm understanding that the change of zoning could add the potential of as many as 100 homes, actually,
Well,
as opposed to putting it in areas
you
that
don't
are
want a
zoned
spot
for
zone,
this.
right? And so the idea is, this lot does not touch RA 40. It's very close, but it doesn't touch RA 40. So that's a question for the board. Would you change this as one 26-acre parcel, or would you change these all 50 acres surrounding it? And it would be contiguous then with the RA 40, I mean.
Well, I would need an analysis of that, or a study done by
And this is all
you
type-
guys, or
this-
whoever,
yeah.
with the
And
master plan.
this is all type 1 actions over 25 acres,
Right.
it's gonna be coordinated, there's gonna have to be some sort of an analysis that goes into it.
Right. I don't think it's a heavy lift, but I think it should be justified somehow, at least reasoned out why it makes sense or don't make sense.
It's something we have to think about,
It's an interesting concept, so.
yes.
No, we
Let's give it a
appreciate you,
I know the
You're letting
the
us
town's been
discuss
wrestling for 3 decades with, you know, affecting the schools to the point that, we have a hospital now, we have all the sports services now, I think we need some kids to come back, so I'm not opposed to that, so.
But I think this is a lift that if it were to be made under the affordable housing, that it would be important that it remains affordable housing, because we know that, you know, you're connecting it to the hospital in a certain sense.
Yeah.
And we know that the hospital salaries are what the hospital salaries are, so we wouldn't want to outprice who this was intended
Right.
for.
Right.
and the nice thing is, as I said, since it's a change of zone, you have the tool of the covenants and restrictions to guarantee that if you want.
Alright, so we need to go back and get a little more fact finding.
Right, and we'll make ourselves available to Mr. Murphy, Mr. Hammond, for whatever follow-up they might want as well, so
Got
they
the
can
notes?
report back to you.
Okay, very good, thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Got the notes? Okay.
That's it?
Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Manzi, for even considering.
Thanks,
doing
Mr.
this.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks.
Here,
You got a Tuscaloosa pencil there, Jeff.
Happy New Year again.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Mr. Manzi, thank you.
Take care, Mr. Butler, thank you.
Staying, Jeff staying?
Thank you, Jeff.
So I
Now
think,
we have resolutions.
And a little- Yes, across the street.
I'd like to go there and actually see.
southeast to Harrison.
Moving.
Are you moving? I'm not gonna chase you, I'll take another chair.
Backs up to the golf course.
Different sets of resolutions, there's some CBA resolutions, which are a different one, so we'll go through, I guess, the regular ones, and then you basically have to go back and open up the CBA set.
Alright, so we'll do town board and then go back.
Yeah, Diane can, well,
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also have for everybody, can you pass that down? Maybe to you, Jody.
Does anybody know what happened to Jody?
Maybe, I think she was in
Jody?
I thought she said see you January 5th.
Alright, maybe she's fine now.
We gotta pay attention.
So she's not gonna be here for tomorrow's meeting?
I don't think so.
I thought she said I'll see you January 5th.
She might have. Karen will know. Just with Jody,
Yeah.
Karen, just check with Karen. Okay, we will move on to resolutions. As soon as I get them up. Just so you know, normally we had set up to do the CDA meeting at our regular town board meeting and then go on to the town board meeting. But one of the resolutions in the CDA meeting has to have a resolution from the town board meeting approved first, so we'll do the town board meeting first and then do the CDA tomorrow, okay? So the first one is appoints official newspaper. Next is appoints official online publication.
Patch?
Next is
Are they still in
approves
business?
highway
Yes.
superintendent expenditures.
Right.
Next is appoints bond counsel. 5 is appoints, DeWitt, Spellman, Bartlett, is it Barrett? I thought, LLP as counsel for the town of Riverhead, Oak Hills. Number 6 is reappoints town historian. 7 is authorize a stipend for town engineer, that's for the stop. 8 is maintains policy of non-discrimination. 9 is adopts 2019 living wage. 10 is set salaries of general town employees for the year of 2019. 11 is set salaries of highway department for the year 2019. I believe it's 2019. Set salaries of elected officials for the year 2019. 13 is set salaries of water district employees for the year of 2019. 14 is set salaries of sewer, the scavenger waste district for the year 2019. 15 is set salaries of street lighting district for the year 2019. 16 is set salaries of the various boards for the year of 2019. 17 is set salaries of police officers for the year 2019. 18 is a resolution to authorize execution of deed and any required documents to transfer property from the town of Riverhead to the Community Development Agency to correct and reflect Community Development Agency as legal entity to accept title and deed to Suffolk County Tax Map number 0600135-1-7.4. This is, one of the parcels, I believe it was the Navy parcel that was deeded to the town, but it needs to be deeded back to the CDA to move forward with the, I believe with the sale, the way it was written. 19 is authorizes to register and remit registration fee to Nassau County BOCES necessary to piggyback, General Municipal Law S1316 from Nassau Suffolk BOCES. 20 is authorizes town clerk to publish and post a public notice to consider a local law to amend procurement policy pursuant to general municipal law. That was adding the sexual harassment policy for contractors. The next is 21, appoints and approval of the fee schedule for the Rayner Group, PE and LSP LLC as consulting engineers and land surveyors. 22 is accept security of the Vista at Bating Hollow LLC condominium units recreation fund. 23 is accepts performance security of M-GBC LLC in connection with the subdivision known as Calverton Camelot 2. 24 is reappoints chairman and vice chair to the Board of Riverhead Zoning Board of Appeals. Just if you guys are okay with that. Next is reappoints members and designates chairman and vice chair to the Town of Riverhead Planning Board. That was to just reappoint, it's Stan and Ed Denisneski. So if you guys.
Just hold up one second,
Yep.
I'm just catching up here.
Sure.
Who is it, reappointing who?
We have,
So
one is
Fred
the
and
zoning
Otto.
board is 24, right, so that's Fred McLaughlin and
Right.
Otto Whitmire.
Right,
They are the current, chair and vice chair
right,
For zoning board, right?
for zoning board to reappoint them for another year.
okay,
I've spoken to Otto, I have left a message for Fred, I have not confirmed with Fred yet, but, and then, the next one is for
Okay.
Stan Carey and Ed Denisneski. They are the current chair and vice chair.
this is a 2-year appointment, was it 2 years?
No, it's just 1 year, every year you reappoint the chair and vice chair at the,
Oh,
at
vice
the
chair,
meet,
right,
yeah.
okay.
So, next is adopts a local law to amend chapter 289 entitled Vehicles, Traffic and Parking Regulations of the Riverhead Town Code, stop and yield at intersections, railroad crossing parking yield, this is Dam Road and Forge Road, Riverhead, we'd had the public hearing. 27 is ratifies resolution number 2018-643, which approves the chapter 255 application of Bold Broadcasting Inc. Holiday Light Show at.
Sorry to cut you off.
Yep.
This is just
Yeah.
really
Right.
last minute, I think I called you all about this
Mhm.
last board meeting, because they were gonna move forward on it, so this is just ratifying it, they have an
Okay.
extra day, but they really did.
The next is authorizes payment of the Association of Towns annual dues for 2019. Next is authorizes supervisor to execute a professional service agreement with Prestige Data Inc. That is one of the legacy programs, I believe, for the department. Where are we now? 30 is authorizes the supervisor to execute a professional service agreement with WFT Data Services.
Who?
I don't even those are a couple of the legacy programs that we have.
That's the justice court.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just goofing.
I know. Cause you wanna read that incorrectly. Authorizes the town clerk to publish and post a notice for public hearing for a site plan for, Leotis of Calverton LLC, Mavilla Foods Building. That was the, they came to work session last time. 32 is acknowledges
6 months ago.
appointment of and sets compensation for deputy supervisor.
And then you have this hand out right there.
Oh, that's the bill.
That's the bills, yeah.
Compensation?
And the next one is water wellhead treatment for the removal of manganese at plant 5.
This is a correction.
What is this
We
one?
had sent a notice to the newspaper for the, public hearing for this, and there was some typo in there, so this
Okay.
is just to correct.
Okay,
Just the address and the location of
Mhm.
that's it.
okay. Do we have to change the last resolution? Do we have to pull that one?
I don't think we have to pull it, I think we can just use this one to correct.
Excuse me, we were in touch with a good friend, our, bond counsel, and told him that there was just an address that was incorrect in the resolution. So he approved this resolution is enough to correct, the original bond resolution and to publish, the notice to publish.
Okay, but do we have to rescind the previous resolution?
No, this is just correcting it.
Okay, but where does it say that it's a correction? Just check with Bob on this, to make sure that we don't have to.
Yep.
Because if you go to look back in the history, it's going to look. Oh, here, whereas the reference the wrong well and address of the well. Now therefore, but that's fine, I think but just double check with Bob that that's okay. All right, is that it? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we'll fix that.
Okay, so now we will do the CDA ones.
Do we have those?
Yeah, if you go back into
Go back to the
the dates of the meetings, it's a January 3rd meeting, but it'll say CDA underneath, under the agenda.
All right, I gotta go to the whole town.
Diane, do you have any extra copies of that, or?
I can make more.
Yeah, you can take this here.
Is that the question?
Oh, please.
All right, just let me know when everybody's at the,
I'm here. Jim's here.
I'm here, I'm listening, I got no computer,
I'm sharing.
and you're sharing.
January 3rd, we're gonna go to the agenda packet.
which one is the CDA one? That's regular meeting. Oh, you don't have it. Where are you?
And this is for the CGA meeting agenda, is that right?
Yeah.
You got it, right, Tess?
That's tomorrow
Yes.
too.
To the Granicus.
On the side over here?
It's like
Yeah.
5 resolutions.
Yes, that is correct, and there will be another one with, their meeting date, their meeting schedule for
To this side.
2019.
Yeah, maybe
I'll see more.
It's nothing big, I'll just.
How many are there?
4,
Oh,
5. One is resolution to accept deed from the town of Riverhead transferring title and ownership of the portion of the EPCAL property described as Suffolk County Tax Map number 600-135-1-7.4 to correct and reflect Community Development Agency as legal entity guarantee to accept title pursuant to public law 102-484 at section 2854 as amended by public law 103-337 what is SEC? Section 2833. So that is what I was talking about before, so we took it from the town and gave it back over to the CDA.
Right.
Next is appoint members and officers of the Community Development Agency. Next is ratifies omnibus resolution relating to requirements of the Public Authorities Accountability Act as 2005 as amended. I don't know what that one, John, what is that one?
Number 3.
Yeah,
I believe this is just setting, we set the 2 different committees for the year, there's the governance committee and
okay,
the
alright, so that's the Public Authorities Act, just resetting the committee
Yeah,
again.
this is just resetting the committees for.
We have to do that every year?
I believe so.
Okay.
Last
It's
year.
been done every year.
It's been done every year, so.
Alright, the next is adopts rules and procedures for community development agency meetings, that's what Dawn had presented to us.
Yep.
And the next is adopts policy for open meeting law for the Town of Riverhead Community Development Agency.
We should never have open meetings.
And I believe
Right,
we're also
Denise?
gonna have one more, just wanted to set the date for the CDA.
Glad we got that done.
So I think we had discussed as a part of these discussions, it's gonna be like the first town board meeting of every month is gonna be CDA meeting.
Right.
So she's fabricating that agenda and she'll
Mhm.
submit it around.
Okay, alright. Alright, so, I'd like to close the work session and get a first and second to go into open session, closed executive session for personnel, matters surrounding, raises for employees, matters surrounding deferred compensation, matters surrounding the extension of a contract, and matters surrounding appointing outside counsel.
I just, a quick question, I had a email I read regarding questioning some of the,
Yeah,
was that
Bob had,
worked out or?
Bob had addressed that
It was
because
worked
the
out, okay.
contractual sounding, the extension is really, is a renegotiation of a contract, so with an individual, that ends up in there, and then the appointment of outside counsel because it's a particular, it's tied to a particular litigation,
Okay,
so.
I just don't wanna get beat up on Riverhead Local if I did something.
Oh, it's all right.
Bob Freeman seems to, everybody did, right?
Yeah, I think,
We got a really
yeah,
good explanation of the whole thing from him, I thought.
yeah, I think maybe so, just to
I'm
go
sure we
into
can-
executive, everybody in
Done a
agreement?
little-
Yes, we can finagle it around to make sure that it barely covers executive session.
We're not gonna listen to Jim. No, I never do.
I know you don't.
Just for, uh-oh, what'd I do with it now? Ah, here it is. So just so I know with specificity,